Hey guys, how you doing? It's the first Friday of 2019. Welcome to another episode of the Breakfast Club. Yeah, I still have my tree up. Come on, it's not that long, removed from Christmas. I mean, I still got some time to keep it up. Shut up. Anyway, I want to apologize for not having a video up for the past two weekends, last two Fridays. If you recall, the holidays just passed, and during that time period, because of the nature of my job and of course the holidays and all the buying and everything like that, yeah, I was incredibly busy, and the little bit of time that I had left pretty much was recuperating, and I mean a little amount of time. So I really wasn't able to put up anything, and I apologize for that. But thankfully, now that things have died down and my job no longer is needing me to work so many days, here I am. Now, I have to apologize for this particular video that I'm putting up right now because, one, it's not exactly the one that I wanted to put up, or at least was planning to put up. I was more planning on putting up something about like reflecting the past year and some of its ups and downs and its absurdities, and then use that, as a way of, talking about, what to look forward to this year, how we're going to approach it, stuff like that. But instead, this has now become a commentary on a somewhat more ridiculous thing. And if it's a topic that you will be tired of hearing, considering that it's about a person that is constantly being brought up for his ridiculousness, if it's a subject you're sick of, I apologize. Though it's very telling the state that we're in when we're mentioning a very important individual, and the things that he does should be something that we should all look at with some seriousness and with some eagerness to debate, you know, the ramifications of, and yet we're still looking at it like, this again, you know. It's, but I apologize for that, and I also apologize for the fact that this is probably the third recording. Not that you would know. I'm kind of admitting something I don't have to admit. But this is like the third recording that I'm doing of this, because the first two times I was just so overwhelmed by the sheer stupidity of what I'm about to talk about that I end up just sputtering and stuttering the whole way through. And plus, the one just before this one was just a little too long, so I'm going to try my best to truncate things as much as possible. What the hell am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about yet another really stupid Trump tweet. Now, the more sane among you might be rolling your eyes and going, you should know better than that. The last thing you want to do when you're trying to keep your sanity is read a Trump tweet. If you want to even, you know, deal in this reality, the last thing you should be dealing in is one of those. Because we all know just how much, just say we're adults, we all know how much bullshit tends to be in those things. There's almost never any real substantive truth in them whatsoever. However, this tweet that I had seen was just so freaking stupid, so insane that I couldn't help but just stare in shock at it, which says a lot considering that he's put up quite a bit. But the other reason why is because I felt it was very indicative of the state that we're in this country. It was so ridiculous and so full of things that point at our particular issues that I couldn't help but comment on it. And I think it's actually a good starting point, for, especially in the beginning of 2019, to consider what it is that we're actually up against and what we're actually suffering from. You know, as if no one else has already pointed this out, but hey, leave me alone. um, Basically, the tweet that Trump put out was made, I believe, back in January 2nd. It was 2 days ago, and it was on the wall. Now, as we all know, this has been an issue of contention for Democrats and Republicans, or should I say, a lot of people at Trump himself, because, there's this whole fight on whether the wall should go up at all. The wall, of course, being the so-called wall that's going to be put up between, the United States and Mexico to keep the undesirables out, as it were. And so far, there's been no real push in that direction. And what I mean by no real push is There's been no real plan in effect. There's there's no real committee, no group of workers ready to get going. There are no plans that have been drawn. We haven't heard anything from engineers, architects, anything like that. So nothing like that's been set up. And it's this particular term is like halfway through, and considering that there really has only been one real achievement as far as what the administration has put out, as far as a bill, like any real work that they've done. Well, they've done plenty of damage, but as far as like any real thing that they can look at and say, look what we pushed through. Look at what my administration has helped to put into the books. It's basically giving yet another huge tax cut to the rich. Whoop-de-freaking do. As far as his campaign promises go, a lot of them has fallen flat, and the only one the main one that Trump at this point is desperate to push forward so he can at least have something to point at to those who are still, reverently supporting him is the wall, which, if you remember, he said that Mexico was going to pay for. And anybody with any working brain cells would realize how ridiculous that premise is. So, in light of the situation, with him desperate now to try to at least push this wall thing through so he can at least point at that and go, see? And even that would be a dubious achievement, but whatever. He now has to convince people that this thing's a done deal and it's going forward. But it hasn't been going forward, which is why we're now dealing with a government shutdown over it, because he's trying to secure funding for this wall. That in itself should have people going, mine. He needs funding for this thing. Government's not willing to give it to him so easily, so now he's pretty much putting government through a stalemate until he gets what he wants. This is what a deal maker does. So he then puts out this tweet going, Mexico is paying for the wall through the new USMCA trade deal. Much of the wall has already been fully renovated or built. We've done a lot of work. $5.6 billion that House has approved is very little in comparison to the benefits of national security. Quick payback! Now, I'm not going to make the same mistake that I did in the other videos that I had recorded before, doing this one, which is the one I want to put out, because I don't want this to be too long, and I don't want to go through the sputtering and laughing and just like the shaking of my head that I did. But let me just quickly go over some of the things that just had me going, really? One, if Mexico is paying for the wall, then there's no reason for us to go through a shutdown. By the way, what I'm saying is what, anybody with half a brain who's been paying attention to current events knows and was probably thinking when they were reading this. It's like, if Mexico's paying for it, what's the shutdown for? Two, and this one's personally, this one's I think more of a pet peeve of mine, but hopefully you guys have seen it too. When he says that the wall has already been fully renovated or built, much of this wall's already been fully renovated or built. Okay, then that would mean that you had already secured funding to get it going. Can't get it built, much less renovated, unless you already have been paying people to get it done. And we should see blueprints and all that type of stuff about seeing how it looks. We should see pictures of this, of the construction being done and all that type of stuff. Also, I love the use of the word renovated here, because if you're saying it's renovated or built, which is it, dude? Because they both don't mean the same thing. In fact, one of them implies that it's already been built. You can't renovate something that's not there, right? I mean, you want to renovate a house because the house is kind of run down, or it's, it needs, to upgrade some of the features in it, like maybe the roof needs to be upgraded or possibly completely fixed. You might want to rewire the house. You might want to like add something like, some, people tend to be big on marbled tops and counters and stuff like that. You want to do stuff to raise its value, so you renovate it. It has to already be built to do that. But there's nothing built there yet, so yeah. And the whole thing of we've done a lot of work and $5.6 billion that the House has approved, they haven't approved it yet. If they had already approved it, we wouldn't be going through a shutdown. See, it's this sort of stuff that just See, I'm doing it again. It's this sort of stuff that reminds me of just how completely screwy our current political situation in the United States is, where we have such blatant bullshit being presented to us by the head of our executive branch. It doesn't, like, this is the sort of nonsense that you expect to see in a crazy comedy, where it's obvious that the person that's saying this is either so full of shit and doesn't even care that he's so full of shit. There's no scruples whatsoever. To the point where it's like, there's no, how the hell, nobody, like, if you're watching this on TV, you'd be laughing your ass off and saying, man, there's no way that this could happen in real life. Here we are. It's a complete mockery. I mean, yeah, I know politics is full of bullshit. We see it all the time. Anyone who's at my age or older knows the amount of lies and crap that tends to come out of government, but at least they do it back in the past. Well, then again, there, because you know what? I don't want to get into that right now. But generally speaking, we expect a higher level of, like bullshit than this, where there's at least some sort of factual information that you can kind of glean from it. Like they find some way to twist it or distort it instead of just outright lying, and not just outright lying, but doing it in such a way that it's so easy to see that it's a lie. Like the person, like, we just caught you stealing. You didn't see nothing. You got the thing in your hand. I don't know what you're talking about. Like that sort of bad comedy. That this is the level that we're at, and it's at our highest levels of government. That's not a good thing, to put it mildly, to make an understatement here. We have gotten to the point now where just about everything coming out of this administration has people on so many walks of life having to question what reality is. That's the thing that gets me the most. We can't even agree on what reality is anymore. I mean, we've been there for some time now, to be perfectly honest with you. We've pretty much now got, I mean, when they first showed up on the scene, when Trump's administration shows up on the scene, and they start talking about alternative facts, and people are like, fucking really? To be honest, that was where we were heading to begin with. I mean, we were kind of already there. That's how we got to be president in the first place. We were already dealing with a situation where, depending on who you believe or where you get your information from, you have an alternative view of the world, which is kind of screwed up because, I mean, I know that reality can be argued to be subjective depending on who you talk to, but there comes a point where there's a certain shared experience that all humanity has. I mean, we all know, for instance, that the sky is blue and that rain can get you wet. And when you find somebody who is like arguing against you about those things, then you usually can tell that there's something wrong with them in some form or fashion. But now we're getting to the point, well, we're already at the point where somebody can literally just say a bunch of nonsense. And instead of pretty much all of the population going, that's bullshit, you will now have people arguing over whether this is true or not. Or literally having serious discussions about this sort of thing. People generally don't have serious discussions about, say, an insane person in the street screaming about how Jesus Christ is coming out of his underwear. We don't listen to that and then start having long conversations about it, or having news pieces on it, or having it control the flow of our day. We know it's insane. We know it doesn't have any bearing on reality, and we move on. But we've now allowed this sort of nonsense to get into our executive branch of government. And it's pretty much infested our discourse. And to make matters worse, there are people who are eating this up. That's where we've gotten with this. It's insane, to say the least. There's not much more for me to be said, except for me to going into further detail, but I think I've already overstated the point. There's only one thing that I want to add to this, and you guys might think ill of me for what I'm about to say. But it's honestly, if you want to be able to get through this without going into conniption fits, this is my advice. Considering that this insanity is now considered news and that this is the sort of thing that we actually have to discuss now seriously. Like, we actually have to take this crap seriously and go, no, no, this is not what reality is. And there's, you know, as yet, there's no real push to just say, okay, we've had enough. It's time to end this BS. My suggestion, if you don't want to completely lose your mind, is to do what the late George Carlin had suggested in one of his comedy routines and just take the news as entertainment. Because at this point, that's pretty much what it is. Just take it as entertainment. Just look at the news as something to laugh and point at, or just be like, wow. At this point, that's the level that it's at. It's either you take it that way, or you scream and gnash your teeth at the falling apart of your culture and nation. That's where we're at, guys. Yes, I know that there are people trying to change this. Yes, I know that there are citizens ready to do something about it, but they aren't at the level and at the organization to truly be effective at it. If there really was a strong, concentrated effort to fix this, we wouldn't have gone as long with this as we have. Just saying. Because remember, there's, for all the pushback against it, there's still strong enough forces that are keeping it just the way it is, which is why I now find myself making a video like this. It's the reality that we're in. So you might as well laugh at it while you can. Take care, people.